Hello, bronies, it's me, it's Clayton, and I just saw the most recent episode, Dungeons and Discords. And let me just tell you, this episode probably proves my point that Discord makes any episode better. Because if Discord wasn't really in this episode, it would be sort of by the numbers. But man, is Discord funny, and man, are his antics amusing. So let's get to the story, shall we? So Discord is upset because Fluttershy and the rest of the members of the main six have to go on a trip to Yak-Yakistan. So, since Discord has nothing else to do, he decides to spend a guy's night with Spike and Big Macintosh at Twilight's Castle, where Spike and Big Mac have the idea that they're going to play a little role-playing game called Ogres and Oubliettes, which is sort of like a role-playing game mixing Dungeons and Dragons with Lord of the Rings and or Warcraft. That's where I saw the influences. Anyways, Discord initially doesn't really feel like playing the game, but as the night goes on, Discord becomes more and more frustrated, which eventually leads to, as you've probably seen in the trailers, a full-on alternate universe which recreates the game in a much more epic scale. So, if you don't know me, I'll tell you that I'm a really big fan of RPGs, and especially those in a fantasy setting. Hence why I'm also a big fan of films like Lord of the Rings, and I even have a soft spot for the Warcraft movie. As such, I had a blast throughout this episode. John Delancey pretty much made this episode worthwhile, as since we haven't seen Discord in a while, and since he's able to pull off his antics with so much enthusiasm, he makes this whole role-playing scenario full of fun. This whole episode acts as a love letter to us nerdy gamers who love to play those fantasy RPGs, as there's the whole thing's full of gaming jargon, like 20-sided dice instead of 10-sided dice, speccing a character for intellect and perception, that sort of stuff. So if you understand the culture, or if you're part of it, you'll get a kick out of it. It's also really nice to see an episode that features three characters who don't interact that often: Spike, Big Macintosh, and Discord. I like these types of episodes that bring in characters that we don't usually see together, because it allows us to see different parts of the characters that we didn't see before. And seeing Discord getting frustrated with something as simple as a tabletop RPG game is rather amusing, in a way that only John Delancey can do. And also, Kathy Wesseluck and Peter New were clearly having the time of their lives when playing as their characters, both when they were just playing Spike and Big Macintosh and when they were in the actual RPG game. The animation throughout is also really good. Even though the episode's a bit slow at points, the absolute standouts are the moments when they go into the actual game, where they use magical abilities, swords and shields, and they actually fight giant versions of the game pieces. I would have preferred actual incarnations of the characters on those game pieces, but hey, giant game pieces are kind of fun, are kind of a fun visual gag as well. Speaking of which, the whole episode's full of visual gags, one of my favorites being right at the beginning, where Discord goes into an opposite dimension. Hi, I'm opposite Discord, and I'm totally okay with this. I am sure someone's going to write a fanfiction about what Discord does in an opposite dimension at this point. But then again, when an episode's full of Discord, you can tell there's going to be tons of visual gags revolving around his animation. However, what makes this episode work, in my opinion, more than an episode such as What About Discord, is the fact that the story itself is actually full of humorous moments, rather than just saving all of the best moments for the end. That's not to say that Dungeons and Discord doesn't have a good ending, because it certainly does, by God it does. But the episode's pretty funny and pretty fast and loose throughout. In fact, throughout many of Discord's antics, he actually makes several references to classic films that I didn't think he would. Like, if you've ever seen the film Zoot Suits, he makes a reference to that, and even heads to a dance club at one point in the episode. It's so much fun to witness, and that you just can't help but enjoy the insanity, which is pretty much what Discord's supposed to do anyways. Heck, there's even an episode to a classic dogs playing cards painting. If you've ever seen that painting, there's actually a reference to that. And is it me, or do the dogs look similar to the ones from Pound Puppies, the old Hub series? I don't know if that's really a big reference, but hey, it's something I caught. one more thing is that this is probably one of the only episodes that I can think of that's distinctly male-related. I'm glad that this series is full of female characters who contribute to the plot a lot, but sometimes you should just let the guys be guys. And that's what this episode did. I'm glad that we were finally able to have an episode revolving entirely around 3 of the male characters, and ones that the fan base has taken a liking to. Whether it's Big Mac's monosyllabic responses, or Discord's utter insanity, or Spike's role as the voice of reason, I loved every single little bit of this episode. And whether it's with the RPG references, whether it's with Discord's antics, or whether it's the fact that this episode is just so funny to watch, it's definitely an episode that I'll see again. My only criticism is that the episode is a tiny bit slow at points, and it does seem to run out of ideas a bit early on. But hey, this episode was able to fill up 22 minutes of entertainment, and that's what I demand out of a My Little Pony episode. So, it's totally solid. Dungeons and Discords gets an 8 out of 10. You should definitely see it, especially if you're a big fan of RPGs. Because I definitely have plus 10 in intelligence and plus 5 in strength in this business. See you next time.